SEGA Bits presents SEGA Talk, a podcast talking all things SEGA! With your hosts, George and Barry.
Look, it's a giant talking egg. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the master here. Say what?
Hello and welcome to another episode of SEGA Talk. This time we're going to be covering Sonic Adventure. I don't know if you guys heard of that game. It's a minor release by Sega on the Sega Dreamcast back in the early, I guess if you're in Japan, it's 1998. The game, first we want to thank our Patreon supporters. So if you want to support this podcast, you could go to Patreon. And if you don't have any money and you still want to help us out, you could give us an iTunes review. That'd be great. But first, Barry, you want to start talking about how this game came into your life, and then I'll talk a little bit about the release dates and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. How did this come into my life? I really wanted to get a Dreamcast. I don't think I was able to get it on release, but I was able to get it for my birthday that year, and it was the first game I got with it. And I didn't buy a VMU because I didn't know what they did. I thought the game saved on the console. And
yeah.
So I played it for a week, but I was unable to save, so I'd play as long as I could and then go back to the beginning. And I finally got a VMU, and then I was actually able to play it.
Yeah, the VMU, I guess I could see your perspective because it has a screen, and before, their memory cards didn't have a screen. And I even remember the day the Dreamcast came out, looking at all the accessories, and one of the things was that they had two different memory cards. One that had the screen, and then the other one that had 4 times the memory. I don't know how. At this time, it was probably just 2 times, but without the screen. And then they had the rumble packs you had to buy separately. My first time I played this game, it was on a demo form because my friend bought the Dreamcast on launch day, and he nobody pre-ordered anything. They just walked in and happened to get one, which is, I assume they're super lucky because it sold out on launch date. So he could only get Power Stone for the launch title, but it came with a demo disc anyway, so I got to play the first level in the demo disc, and it was really, really impressive at the time how they did the water. I think this is one of the levels that they kind of displayed what the Dreamcast could do, which is something that we're going to talk about today. And I just want to say, if you guys notice something different about Barry, is that he's sick, and he's soldiering on and doing this episode, so you guys give him a hard time anyway, though, in the comments below.
Thank you.
This game was released in December 23rd, 1998 in Japan, like we said. Sonic Adventure was the first fully realized 3D Sonic the Hedgehog platformer, and it was originally called Sonic RPG. The game placed greater emphasis on the story, which it had cutscenes and all that, which... that's really what separated this game, right, from the other ones, because Sonic was basically a silent character, like a classic Mickey Mouse, and this one, we had him going, whoa, whoa! Remember when
Who could forget?
Tails?
Yeah.
Who could forget the exciting, right?
Yeah.
The game also showcased the Dreamcast's power, utilizing about every feature on the console, especially on that beach level with the water and stuff, including online leaderboards, DLC, and a VMU minigame. The game was released as a launch title in America and Europe on their respective release dates. However, those who wanted to try the game earlier could rent the console and the game for $20 at Hollywood Video. I didn't know about that. I do know that they used to rent consoles. My friends used to actually rent consoles there. Did you ever rent a console at Hollywood Video?
I rented an Xbox, but I never rented a Dreamcast.
Okay, I never rented a Dreamcast. I think we rented a PS2 when it came out. I couldn't afford a PS2. I got the PS2 way late in its life cycle. It's a great console, but... I guess people could say that I was a little salty that the Dreamcast lost to the PS2, maybe. That I kind of, stood out. The Sega Saturn did not have a main title Sonic game, which is instead it had 3D Blast. And okay, so Barry, before we get into it, but like, you don't consider 3D Blast a 3D game, right? Even though it has 3D in the title.
It's a lie. It's isometric. You know, it's like drawing. It's like drawing a cube and then saying this is a 3D cube. It's not.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And you know, and I also hate that Wikipedia actually has Sonic 3D Blast as a mainline series title. But like, if you look at the mainline series, it's only this one and I think Sonic Mania that are non-Sonic Team games. So I'm really hesitant to give it to. I do give even Sonic Mania. Do you think that's mainline? I don't know. I do. I mean classic mainline, but
yeah.
Takashi Iizuka was the senior game designer on Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and who pushed the idea of a Sonic RPG to Yuji Naka and Naoto Oshima, and discussed with each member of the team what elements made up a Sonic game as they carry over all the essential elements to 3D. What do you consider essential elements for a Sonic the Hedgehog game? Do modern games like Lost World and Forces lack something that Adventure and Genesis originals had?
I mean, you look at that first stage and it has ramps, it has springs, it has, I guess people would say, like the pinball physics, enemies, rings. You know, it's there's some pretty basic essential elements that are all there, though the dash pads are new. What were your thoughts on the dash pads?
You know, at the time when you're first playing it, I didn't put too much thought into the gameplay, but the more, I guess, older I got, or the more I played it over and over again, at first it felt kind of like it was a roller coaster, where you had limited control and limited amount of times, and a lot of people hate that because in the classic Sonic games, it's not like you always have control. They always have the roller coaster moments, but I think it felt more obvious in this game.
Yeah.
Compared to the older classic games, because in the classic games you have so much platforming. Then you get to a point where it's like a roller coaster where you just do the spin around and you have no control of the character. So I don't know. I think they balanced it better in the classic games compared to this one. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Interesting.
But the dash pads weren't terrible. I mean, it gave the game some iconic moments, especially the whale scene that everybody talks about and remembers.
Right, they're almost like helpers pushing you forward because you need to remember to hold the stick. And with Lost World and Forces, I think what they're missing is the multiple playable characters and just more of a bright, sunny, adventure-y, fun kind of take. I don't know. It just seems like it's lacking that in those games.
It is funny because Lost World does have kind of a positive, more bright vibe, but I agree that compared to the other ones, it's still missing, I guess, the interaction or whatever. Like, even the classic games had friends, and I guess now we have a point of Sonic when they have no friends now, right? It's just Sonic. Even like Unleashed, even though they could have just made the Werehog Knuckles, they decided to make them Sonic anyway, so they could say it's just a Sonic game. Yeah. And as for the Sega Genesis titles, the physics didn't carry over. I think that's the most glaring one. I guess if you talk to classic fans, where they talk about how they hate the 3D games, I think they're different. I don't think that you had to carry over the physics, but it definitely was one of the essential ingredients in the Genesis games that made them what they were, because that's why when you play a Mario game and then you play a Sonic game, they feel totally different.
For sure.
The earliest 3D platforming test demonstrated that Sonic could complete a level in only 10 seconds, which led the team to rebuilding levels over and over until a satisfying length was reached. Development began on the Sega Saturn, but when it became known that the console did not have much life left in development, it shifted to the Katana, which was the early codename for the Dreamcast. And the Saturn work was repurposed into Sonic Jam, as a way to see how the public would react to a 3D Sonic. Did you experience Sonic Jam before Sonic Adventure, and what did you think of how Sonic played on the Saturn in 3D? So,
I like how I wrote the questions, but you're asking me. No, but I played Sonic Jam after Adventure, and I was surprised by how well it actually played on the Saturn. I could have totally seen a maybe more simplistic take on Sonic Adventure on the Saturn. Maybe, like it had that kind of overhead view.
Yeah.
And maybe they could have done something like that, like from the Sonic 3D Blast perspective, but in full 3D. It wouldn't have had as many wow moments, I don't think, but I think it would have worked.
Yeah, I agree. And as for me, I actually played Sonic Adventure first. I didn't play Sonic Jam until like forever. Like I don't think I played until like maybe 2004, 2005. I never had a reason to go play it. Like I didn't even know it had 3D parts on it. I thought it was just a re-release of the classics.
Right.
So when I actually went and actually played it, and it was kind of rare too, for what I've noticed. Mm-hmm. So when I actually went back and played it and noticed that they put the spin dash on the first one, I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought the 3D was cool. I really like the way that classic Sonic looks in that low polygon 3D form that they used. I think they used the power that they had as well. But like those little areas where you play it is pretty small. So it would have been interesting. Also, it's not as fast as the Dreamcast Sonic Adventure, but I kind of like the speed. I thought it felt great. Like you said, It was responsive. So it would have been interesting to see a classic Sonic 3D game early on the Saturn. But it is what it is. With the Dreamcast development going strong, core members of the team took a trip to Central and South America to their experience shaped how the game's stages would be designed, and their photographs not only inspired stages, but actually used as textures in the game itself. A Sandhills stage was even inspired by sand borders the team had seen in Peru. Do you think a trip to Sega's on Sega's dime enhanced the game? Do you think Sonic Team should take more vacations? You know what?
Answer this.
Yeah, this is something that I read when we always look back and we do articles. We have to look at old interviews. Mm-hmm. And one thing that they always say, like developers at Sega were like, "Oh, I came up with this idea when I was traveling for work at doing research," because Sega would basically send, at least this is a Nagoshi interview where he talked about Daytona. Mm-hmm. They were basically sent everywhere, the arcade teams, to do research on what Americans like, what Europeans like. And they got Daytona USA from watching NASCAR, and they were like, this is what makes it, exciting. Mm-hmm. And so they made it into an arcade game, and obviously made a lot of money doing that. So I think traveling works. If that works to spark some creative juices in development team, yes. I think a lot of these people just like, obviously, the vacation.
Yeah.
I think everybody wishes their employer would be like, hey, you want to go on vacation? Enhance your work productivity. I'd be like, right. Sure, let's go to Peru.
Right.
And did it make it better? Yes, because I think a lot of like the way that the forests, when you're walking and they kind of cover the top and everything, and when you fall into it, I think it's pretty interesting that they did these foresty areas that felt very native.
Yeah.
I think they did a pretty good job for the limited power that the Dreamcast had. I mean, it's not a PS4, right? So you're not getting Uncharted now, but back then this was the best, or the cream of the crop.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved when you went out and you looked over the the Mystic Ruins, and you could jump off and just land somewhere in the forest. And they said that before this they would base a lot of their ideas on the Genesis games off of what they'd see in TV and movies and stuff. And so to see it firsthand, I think gave it a lot more of a natural look, more of a realistic, not random, but blocks would just be ruins would be strewn about. You know, it wouldn't be so architectural like the Genesis games were. There was nothing very natural about the Genesis games. Everything felt built, you know?
Yeah, and that's kind of like this was basically Sonic in the real world, right? When you play the Sega Genesis games, you play them and then you're like, this is a made-up world, obviously. Green Hill Zone, the way that the everything looked, right? The pixels, the graphics, the designs of them, it's made up. It kind of looks, some people even predict that, you know, Sonic's just running in a maze created by a scientist, and that's why everything looks so fake.
Right.
But in Sonic Adventure, everything's more realistic. And what do you think? Do you think that actually worked for the game? You know, did you notice that it was basically a whole different art style, the graphics?
I did, but it worked for me, and I think it was still fantastical and cartoonish enough that it worked. Now you look at Sonic Forces, and I think it starts to get a little too realistic. And it just doesn't work as well for me. It's a little too dark. It loses some of that fantasy feel that I think Sonic Adventure and even Sonic Adventure 2 definitely had.
It was kind of weird though when you first go to the city. I was like, wait, there's humans and Sonic lives with the humans when I was a kid, because it was like when you play them in the other ones, there's no humans. The only human is Eggman, and then it's like now it's flipped. It's pretty exciting though. I mean, I like the whole town and the overworld in this game, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Yuji Yukawa, did I screw up his name?
Oh, you got it.
Character designer for the game was given a monumental task of redesigning the cast. Oh man, we're getting to this. He asked himself, to what extent do we change Sonic? And what are the reasons for changing the way he looks? Graffiti art served as an inspiration for the new design and aged up characters like Amy Rose and gave Eggman a whole new look. Do you think these redesigns were successful? What lessons do you think the Sonic movie could learn from Yukawa? Oh, I screwed up his name.
Well, you know, we've got the time, so let's actually go through them, I guess, 7 characters. Let's do that.
Okay.
Right. So let's start with Sonic.
Ooh, he's a lanky boy.
He got lanky. He got green eyes. Interestingly, like, the buckles to a lot of people were new, but he had them in the Japanese art, just never in the games.
Yeah. It's probably for pixel reasons.
And that was about it, right? Like,
outside the lankiness and the bigger, I guess, fins or whatever.
Yeah.
Talons or whatever they call them.
And he had those teeth, like it almost looked like a Nike swoosh. And do you think it worked? I mean, obviously it was successful.
Well, okay, so I guess it was successful because I knew there was something different about Sonic when this came out, but I didn't like. It wasn't like I was like, oh my god, he's so much taller. Like, that kind of didn't register to me that much.
Yeah.
I knew there was something up. I mean, and then when you actually examine it closer, it's the green eyes. Personally, I like the classic look better of all these characters. I know I'm just being biased maybe because they're the ones, but I always kind of liked the idea that they were based on Felix the Cat and that kind of look. But I do think it was successful because, I mean, look how many years... And this is probably the Sonic that most people know.
That's true. What do you think of Tails?
Okay, Tails. This is actually pretty interesting because I always felt like they made Tails look more like a girl in the new redesigns than he did in the other one. I don't know why. And every time I used to meet people that would play the adventure games, they thought that he was supposed to be a little girl until I guess even when he talked. So I don't know. What do you think? Maybe I'm just... people don't know what they're talking about around me.
No, I think you're right, because when they draw him, he'd look kind of shy. He'd kind of have, like, his hands would be doing this, and I'm doing kind of like... he'd do, like, dainty hands.
Yeah.
I have the action figure, and one of his hands is, like, stuck in, like, a little... It's, like, pulled back. Like, it's almost like, ooh, hello. And it kind of looks like a cute little girl hand. But I don't think he changed that much. He just looks a little taller. I think he has blue eyes, which doesn't really bother me. Like, none of the eye colors bother me. I just think it's interesting that they gave them eye colors. How about Knuckles?
he's very much alike the other one. I guess, I mean, it depends on which art we're going with, but I wasn't a huge fan of the classic Knuckles outside of like a few depictions, because there's some depictions where he looks kind of deformed, or he has like this weird expression on his face. It's like they didn't really nail the look of Knuckles yet, since it was kind of already late into the classic Sonic ones.
Yeah.
But I do like the adventure one. I think he looks fine. I don't like the Lego thing he has going on with his shoes.
Oh yeah.
But I did like him in adventure. I thought he was the most. It's probably a solid depiction of his character in the way that they came more of a backstory. So, adventure did right by Knuckles.
What do you think those things are on his shoes? Do you think they're like bolts, like on a plate?
They're Lego, so you could build Lego towers.
I guess.
On his foot.
And then the big one, Amy Rose.
I like classic Amy. I mean, come on, dude. There's more. Like, they just gave her a one-piece like dress thing. I mean, I know we're talking about a fictional character, and we're talking about the like what she's wearing, but like with the ensemble she has in the classic one is better. They should have just used that clothes on this, but I still like the more hedgehog look with the spikes.
Yeah. I don't like the combed down hair. The tutu is a little dated. But I think the sneakers are cool. I mean, they had to do what they had to do. She probably is the most dated character in the Sonic lineup. The clothes she has definitely aren't timeless. I mean, even then, she's more like Japanese girls at that time. I don't even think American girls like looked like that in the 90s. It was more of an 80s thing, you know?
Yeah, and do you think, would you be open to having a Amy Modern Rose modern redesign?
Yeah,
and
I think so.
You think it would ever happen, though, with Sonic Team?
I think they could do some sort of fun publicity, like where they show off her new clothing on the cover of some like girls magazine.
That'd be pretty interesting.
You know, like be like, check out Amy's new style. And I think she could use a new dress. I just think the red dress, there's nothing that I love about it. I think pink and red's kind of a weird mix. Like, it doesn't really look that great to me. I don't know. I'm not a huge Amy, like modern Amy fan. So yeah, I would definitely say that was the one redesign that didn't work for me. But let's talk about Eggman.
Ooh. He's got this, he looks more like an egg. He's I like his classic look because it was like pretty, I think it worked fine for the game because it was more minimal with the 16-bit graphics and his whole big glasses. And there's also two depictions of him, right? There was the cartoon in the US, which he had like red. That's not the one I'm talking about. I'm talking about the classic Genesis games, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely like the classic one better, but this one wasn't that bad. It's weird that he kind of has like these pointy shoes right on here, or like black. Isn't it like kind of looks like he has slippers on or something?
Yeah, they are kind of like weird pointy shoes, and I think they kind of toned it down a little bit with later designs. Like, he doesn't seem as extreme in his proportions, but yeah, it's more like a military uniform that he has.
Yeah.
When before he had like a cape, it was almost like he was his own superhero or something. And I don't think a lot of people knew that it was kind of like a little cape in the back. It was like a collar with a yellow cape, and then these. Did he have the little buttons? Yeah. And so it's a goofy design. I think he does look more menacing. He's taller for sure. I think because they sized up all the characters. And I did want to just talk about the Sonic movie briefly, just because, you know, you look at these, and by and large, outside of Amy, like, it's not a major change. And I think it's because Yukawa knew that he was working with characters that were iconic, and even, you know, going along with Izuka's talking to other members of the team and trying to figure out what are the essential elements of a Sonic game. I think Yukawa was looking at what are the essential elements of Sonic as a character, and I think he retained a lot of that. And I think it's just unfortunate that the original design for the Sonic movie took something that has worked for so long and is so iconic, and just redesigned it just because. And the fact that now they're delaying the movie to Valentine's Day 2020. And did you see the rumor that Tyson Hess is doing the redesign?
I heard the rumor. The whole thing stems about the fact that when they did the announcement, the art looked like his.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I could see that, because that means that, I mean, what do you think he's gonna do? I mean, I just assume he's gonna go back to the original designs, but
yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Well, he did some sketches, but I guess what I find so weird is that his sketches basically took the new redesign, or his sketches took the movie design and moved it more towards the game design. So basically, you had classic Sonic, you had Sonic Adventure Sonic, you had kind of the modern Sonic we have now, which is pretty close to Adventure Sonic, and then this weird radical redesign for a movie, and then you bring someone, Tyson or whoever it is, to now take elements of what we like and apply it to this movie design. It just seems like it's a mess. It's the fact that it's happening now is like a head scratcher. I'm like scratching my head right now even. And
I was going to say what they could learn about this, in my opinion, is don't leave the classic stuff there. Like, there's some stuff where you can't change, in my opinion. Like, you shouldn't change the fact that he has gloves. You shouldn't mess around with his eyes, because there's a reason they're like that. Yeah, that's my thing. It's like, I don't know what they expected, and I'm surprised they're delaying the movie based on some, like, that this idea went so far up the chain and they didn't see it, the blow up. It's just ridiculous. But the game famously had 6 playable characters with 2 new additions. EO2 Gamma had a targeting and shooting gameplay style, which was said to be based on fan feedback from letters written to the team asking for shooting to be added in Sonic games.
That's true. Isn't that weird?
That's so weird. You know what? I wish when I was a kid I would have just like started, writing my favorite game creators, and I'm like, I want this game to have the Hulk and Wolverine in it, and then they just made it happen.
But like, those are letters you report to the police. You're like, dear Sonic team, please add guns to Sonic games. I want Sonic to shoot people. It's like, who are these people? Who is this?
Instead, Sonic Team's like, all right, we got you.
No.
Big the Cat, meanwhile, featured fishing, which was meant to break up the intense nature of the other 5 characters. Between the two, which character and playstyle do you prefer, Big or Gamma? So Big, he's a thick character, so we got some representation there. Mm-hmm. But like Gamma, he has way better gameplay, right? It's more exciting to shoot random targets. So I would say Gamma, but Big the Cat is a better character design because he's the first lazy Sonic the Hedgehog character, because everybody's always up to something. We need somebody that's just chilling, dude. Just relaxing. And
Big's really become kind of like a lovable joke now. Like the Sonic Team Sonic Racing Overdrive video. Like, they went all in on like Big being funny with Froggy and all that. Like, I think it's great that they're embracing him as a comedic character, and almost like a Studio Ghibli character, where he's like kind of outside of everything, doing his own thing, and everyone's like, what is Big up to? But I will say the Gamma gameplay, my problem with it was, even though there's targeting and shooting, it's all very random. Like, you just spin the controller and target as much as you can and let go. Spin the controller, target as much as you can and let go. It wasn't like you were aiming at things. Did you get that?
Yeah, same. It wasn't perfect, but I think at the time I was more impressed the fact that it had more gameplay than Sonic, because when I bought it, I was going in thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be a Sonic the Hedgehog game. I played obviously the demo. Mm-hmm. I knew what I was getting into, and then I started playing it, and it's like, Tails, alright, Tails is the same thing, kind of like the Genesis games. Knuckles, what? Okay, this is totally different.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so I was more impressed that they did everything so different. I didn't hate the Big the Cat, the fishing game, the first time I played it, But then, then I started noticing how annoying it is in the later levels and stuff. So, Gamma is better, but I agree, neither of these are perfected. I think this is the problem we had with Sonic Team games at the time. Like, they had so many ideas, but they didn't really polish all of them to the perfection. There's always something where you're like, why would you even add this if it's not all the way, cooked?
Right.
But, all right. Anything you want to add about that, so I can talk about Chaos?
There has been a talk of fans wanting a remastered version or a remade version of Sonic Adventure, and I guess what I find so interesting about that is if you're gonna do that, I say go all out and just completely remake the game to the point where you're fixing things that didn't work all the way. So make Big the Catfishing that's actually really fun and exciting. Make Gamma gameplay where we're actually targeting things and there's a little more skill involved. And on the same token, I then question, should we actually be doing this, the whole remake? Because why should Sonic's team spend so much time perfecting fishing and shooting? So it's almost like either they do nothing, release it as is, and we deal with the problems it had to begin with, or they go all out and then they're wasting their time, because in a future game we're not going to see fishing again. Why did you spend all that time perfecting it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but I feel it's funny because Sega has so many fishing things going on in other games. Yakuza has a satisfying fishing mode. They had Sega Bass Fishing at the time. So yeah, I agree with you, but I'm surprised that Sonic Team never went back. And I know I've noticed this with Japanese developers. The idea of going back is, to them, seems like an insult. It's like they should always be moving forward.
Yeah.
So I don't mind the Japanese developers, but I understand from a creative standpoint you don't want to go back sometimes. The character of Chaos, which was the bad guy in this video game, was created by Iizuka, who wanted an enemy to separate from Eggman, a common thing with Yazuka and Sonic games that he's done. And the character that was transparent and liquid to show off the Dreamcast's technical abilities. How does Chaos compare to modern day enemies like Infinite, the Deadly Six, Time Eater, and Dodon Pa? Is that?
Dodon Pa.
Well, I don't know. At the time, I just thought he was just like a tool. So to me, when I played it, I was like, this is not a sentient being. It's just a creature being used for destruction. So to me, it was I guess, revealing that Eggman has a big robot. I wouldn't go, oh my god, look, he has a huge robot. It's kind of part of the course, right? He has a weapon that he uses against Sonic.
Yeah.
So I think that's why Chaos never lived up to being, Eggman number 2 or another Eggman, I guess, villain to stand near him, in my opinion. But when we saw all the feedback we got when we talked about Sonic Forces, and then they did all the bad guys, and then we talked about, I said I didn't think anybody liked Chaos, but then a lot of people in the comments really, really liked him, and they were pretty hyped about him being in that game. So I guess he didn't live up compared to these characters. Do I think we're going to be talking about the Deadly Six or Time Eater? Do I even hear anybody talk about Time Eater anymore?
No.
Compared to Chaos? No. So, yeah, I think he's above these characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's your opinion on Chaos?
I thought it was a cool design just because there were so many versions of him. I don't think we saw every iteration, but the fact that he kept growing in size and changing in his design was cool. I did think it was also neat that they tied him in with the classic games, so he was always inside the Master Emerald. So technically he was in the classic games, we just didn't see him. I thought that was really cool. I think with enemies like Infinite, you look at him, he's a guy who found a gem that, I don't know, changed him. Deadly Six were 6 guys that made absolutely no sense. They looked like they were from a Disney show or something. It's just I feel like Chaos, unfortunately, despite not being as popular as I think he should be or he is the best villain outside of Eggman that they've done in a long time. It's a shame that when he was in Forces, he wasn't in Forces. You know what I mean? He wasn't a playable boss.
Yeah, I agree. So you want me to move on to the next bit of this thing?
Sure.
I don't know. We should move on, but Chow. I know this is the part where I guess everybody starts cheering. Right? I'm about to trash this thing. No.
Uh-oh.
We're an evolution of A-Life tech developed for Nights into Dreams. The system was fleshed out and expanded into a minigame, and the intent was to attract people unfamiliar with Sonic to the series and hone their gameplay and action stages through raising the creatures. Mm-hmm. So, do you think that was successful? And, the subsection of fan... Oh, yeah, because after the adventure games, we never got this back, so Sonic Team destroyed the fandom they created with this. And, okay, so I'll start the talk real quick. The Chow, they're really, really popular. So
yeah.
We can start talking saying that. I think if you ask everybody on the internet what they think about them, everybody would say they loved them. These were basically Digimon or Tamagotchi, but in a more highly polygon, especially at the time. It's really nice looking 3D game. And I personally played the crap out of this. And Sonic Adventure 2, I spent probably more hours in this thing, doing this, than I did in the actual game. So I think it worked. I know a few friends that used to play it as well, and they really, really liked it. I think they really used the VMUs. I don't know if it was the second one that let you, but did they both let you take the Chow with you on the go?
Yes.
Yes, okay, that's what I thought. And you could connect them with another one because the VMUs connect on the tips.
Yes.
So, yeah, it was very interesting. This is probably my favorite thing about Sonic Adventure, and I think if anything links Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, since they're so different, it's basically Chow's, basically. I mean, they're in both versions. What do you think about the Chow system?
I thought it was very cool. I thought it was a great way to utilize the Dreamcast's capabilities. It's a shame that they couldn't find a way to carry it forward. I understand not doing it in like the Xbox and PS2 era, but with smartphones now, I'm surprised they haven't done a Chow app that works with your game. Like, they're doing it in Japan all the time with the Yakuza series, but Sonic, it's like they keep doing these speedrunning games, and I don't understand why they don't bring the Chow back. Now, I'm not one of those people who are like, they need to bring back Chow, but the fact that you put it into 2 games and drew so many people to the series through that, and then you kind of just leave them hanging, like, I feel like they probably lost a lot of potential players just because of that. Like, I'm certain there's like some housewife who got a Dreamcast and was just playing the Chow stuff, you know what I mean? Like someone who never would really be playing Sonic games. And I think it's interesting, too, that they saw the Chow Garden as a way for people who were not as good at Sonic games to kind of practice so they could go into the action stages and be better.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I think, I don't know if I've seen people that wouldn't play Sonic play it, but I do know that the people that did play Sonic put a lot of hours into that game. So it's interesting that they never did it. Like you said, they have this power. They know that the smartphone reaches a wide variety of people. We know that Sonic the Hedgehog video games on mobile phones do very well. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised they never try to like cross bridge it where it's like you get a Chow app, you play with the Chow app. Oh, you want these items? Oh, they're basically free if you buy X game that just came out of Sonic. Yep. I mean, why not? I mean, you get hundreds of millions of people's eyes on that, but it's kind of weird. Or maybe even tie it in where you get a console version of it, and you could like move the data back and forth. But yeah.
like an app or something, like a digital only version of the phone game. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
But I mean, it's there. But Sonic Team has the Wisps. They're the new Chow, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, the game featured a huge team of musicians with several musical styles. Live instruments were used to take advantage of the Dreamcast capabilities. Chun Sinyo even threw in a few nods to his music from 3D Blast. I didn't even know he did the music for that game. And his band, Crush 40, created the iconic theme, Open Your Heart. Okay, do you know why they're called Crush 40?
Because they... What was it? Something about when they turn 40 years old? They're gonna crush it?
Oh, I thought they turned 40, so that's why they were called Crush 40. I was like, damn, they're like 80 years old now because it's like 20 years ago.
I think it was they were younger and they were like, when we're doing this, we're going to crush 40. I don't remember what it was.
So much can be said about the music of Sonic Adventure, so let's discuss it a bit. What are your favorite tracks and what is your most underrated track?
Ooh. I love the snowboarding song. I like any of the snowboarding and the sandboarding music is really cool. And to be honest, I kind of like the Knuckles stuff. It's a little cheesy, but it's
you like
catchy.
the Pumpkin Hill?
Oh, that's SA too, but
Oh, yeah, that's true. Iconic.
but I liked his theme. That was pretty cool. I didn't like the Amy music or like the bubblegum kind of stuff so much.
Oh, yeah, the boop 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 doop. It's like what? Every time she would come in, they would just play that song, her theme.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was a little too repetitive. But talking about 3D Blast, like the music in Twinkle Circuit or Twinkle Park, that was from 3D Blast. If you remember during the cutscenes where they're showing, it goes like, I mean, my throat's shot, but I'll try to sing it like it goes. You know, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that. So that was reused from 3D Blast. But yeah, those were some of my favorite ones. I mean, looking back, I do like the butt rock, Crush 40 music, but it was cheesy then. I think it's cheesy now. How about you?
When, like I said this before, like I'm not really that into the whole, like you said, it was kind of cheesy, the rock music, but it's crazy, like how iconic the music has become when we went to that Sonic Adventure event.
Oh my god!
So many grown men just shouting out their lungs in like bliss. I mean, it was contagious. I mean, you had to feel good, right?
Yeah.
I guess it grew more on me over time. Like even, I mean, it's catchy music. It's one of those like, all right, you got me. It's in my head. Kill me now. But I agree with you. All the snowboarding stuff, anything with the snow, anything there's ice. Sonic Team usually has a pretty good track behind it. I don't know why. I guess they just go in for the chill.
Yeah.
They always do that well. I think the whole soundtrack grew on me. At the time, did you think, like, how do you compare it to the Genesis ones? Like, they're totally different music, right?
Oh.
Bubblegum rock, pop, or whatever with this.
I mean, completely different. It was, like, at the time, it was just surprising how different it was, and just, it kind of opened my eyes to a lot of musical styles, if I'm honest. I'm not one to listen to a lot of music outside of, like, movies and TV shows and video games. So I would be hearing stuff, and I'd be like, what the hell is this? And, and then I'd take that path down and learn more about, I guess, music. So that's good. But how about some underrated tracks? Because I was going to bring up the Ice Cap, but the first one that was really quiet.
Yeah.
I thought that one, looking back now, was very Phantasy Star Online, like where you're, before the battle and you're just kind of exploring, and it's very what's the word I'm looking for? It's very like environmental. It's just kind of soothing. I really like that one. And E102's theme song too. It's the only one without lyrics really, and it's like robot music. I like it.
Yeah, I have no idea what would be an underrated track. Like, I'm trying to think of this, like, the soundtrack, and I never really even discussed the soundtrack with anybody. I've heard it, but, like, I'm like, what track do people hate that I would consider underrated? So, I'm not going to be able to figure that out. But we are going to talk about advertisement because, believe it or not, Sega actually advertises Sonic games. Did you know that? So first, we're gonna put on the screen a couple of ads. First, we're gonna look at the Japanese one right here.
Sonic Adventure.
おいソニック本当にやるのかああ俺は冒険が大好きなのさ
Okay, Sonic, go.
ヤッホーあらあ
ソニックはアドベンチャーが好きソニックアドベンチャー Dreamcast
Here's the European ad.
Yep.
Dreamcast.
And this is the American one, and I'm assuming this is the DJ one. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your name? Scary Payton, but they call me the glove. How you feeling tonight? Yo, I'm feeling the love. Feel the love, glove. Yo, Sonic! Sonic! Man, stay off the light speed.
My bad
Sonic Adventure on Sega Dreamcast. It's thinking.
Okay, so we saw 3 different ads. Both of them selling the same game, but 3 different ways.
Yeah.
So which one did you like the most? I mean, I'm assuming we're going to be biased in this one. And which one surprised you the most?
I would say I like the American one the most. Of course, I'm biased, but I love that whole campaign of flying inside of the Dreamcast, seeing all the characters. You'd see characters who wouldn't be in games for like another year, you know, like I think the Floygan brothers make cameos. And but I think it's still, I mean, they don't show as much gameplay and they don't tell you exactly what the game's all about, but I don't think they have to. I think just showing some of those set pieces really works well. And I love Sonic's DJing there. I was actually surprised by the European ad. Like, I looked around for European ads and I didn't really see that many, like, that were anything different than what that one was, which was just like gameplay, fast music and gameplay, and then it was like Sonic waking up from a dream. That was it. I don't know. And I mean, this one, it says dreamcast.com/ what is it, AU? Isn't that Australian? I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not European, but it's the blue swirl, so.
And what do you think about the Japanese one having a Indiana Jones feel to it?
That's just, I mean, the Japanese are what they are.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that somewhere in the forests is like a Sonic plush just decaying.
The Japanese are going to do what the Japanese do.
Yeah.
And I think it's weird that it's like, I understand that there's like, it takes place in South America and they're trying to, but just the way Japan is, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say too much about that ad. I don't want to get controversial, but the American ad, I agree with you. I love the inside the Dreamcast. I think that's probably the most, second or third, maybe third. I mean, Sega has some iconic advertisement campaigns. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Genesis does. Of course, everybody remembers. This one is kind of like a back to that form. What do you think about Sonic being a DJ, though? That always got me. I was like, I play the game. There's nothing. He never DJs in the game or anything. I know he looks cooler like Graffiti, but...
I mean, he's fast, so I can imagine he's good at it, like switching records and stuff.
Yeah, and
You know?
so yeah, he's a DJ now in America. But the European ad, like, if you just want to sell with the graphics, like, I think it works for itself. I understand that it's not as creative. I agree 100%. The Sega of America advertisement campaign for the Dreamcast was like miles ahead of the Japanese and the European. Like, they had the idea of branding. They had a look to the commercials. Like, a lot of games had the same look of the commercials, so you knew right away it was a Dreamcast commercial. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they were better with the whole branding, their message. than they were in the other places. And you could tell right here because right when I clicked the ad, right when I saw the Dreamcast thing going in, I was like, all right, I know what ad this is. No need to look.
Yeah.
I did. So I agree with you. I like that all the franchises were represented. It kind of really made you feel like this is a movement, I guess. Like these games are all together inside your console, and they really did a good job. And this ad really obviously worked because I'm assuming that's the game sold the best in America.
I think so. Yeah.
And that's all the notes I have. What do I do now?
Well, is there anything else you wanted to say about Sonic Adventure? I know it's a huge game. There's things we haven't touched on. I don't think we can touch on everything. There's Tikal.
I know what we could talk about. I know what we could talk about. The DLC. Do you remember the DLC? And do you remember downloading the DLC and trying it out? I know there was the launch day DLC. There was a Y2K DLC. There was a Christmas tree DLC. I'm probably missing some, but you ever try any of these?
Yeah, the Christmas tree one I thought was really cool. It's kind of funny though because I remember there was one DLC that played Sonic CD music in one of the stages, but it was the Japanese music, so I've never heard that before, and I was like, what is this music? It's so weird. So it's definitely... They didn't really localize it.
No.
But I thought it was so cool. I remember showing my parents, showing my dad the Christmas tree and being like, look what they can do. And he's like, wow, look at that. And years later, I would go and download some of the DLC we didn't get over here to check out what other countries got. So it was cool. I liked it.
Yeah, it was one of those things that I guess extended the game, and I wish they had a system where you could have like just downloaded it, like, or in the menu or something, like change it, or have a system where they had like VMU space already saved up, so it changes every holiday, right? Like, oh, you got a springtime skin, and like Station Square always changed, but this is the earliest of that actually happening. I know now in games, and even my TV changes in the holidays now, the menu. And it's like common, but back then this was not common, so this is the first time of that happening. It blew my mind. I remember showing everybody when I figured how to download stuff off of Planet Web.
Yeah.
I just basically downloaded saves like, I lost my save for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I'm not gonna sit here and wait for all the characters to unlock. I'm just gonna download it.
Right.
I thought it was interesting. Before that, I would my friend would download. Like he would tell me I beat all these games 100%. No, he just downloaded the saves from Planet Web and then he would share them with me. And I thought he was so cool. I was like, oh man, you're so cool. Look at you beat all these games. And he's a goddamn liar. Liar. Anyway, that's the end of this episode of Sega Talk. You want anything to add about Sonic Adventure?
I just think it's a fantastic game. I apologize for my voice. There's so much more I could say about it, but that's the great thing about doing this show is hearing from people after we record, hearing their thoughts about it, and we do have a few people's thoughts. I sent you the link there actually on our Discord chat if you want to read from our Patreon supporters who get early... What do they get? They get early access to the show, and they also get their comments read first.
How do you say this guy's name? Jack
Ricala.
Remember renting a Dreamcast Plus Sonic Adventure from Blockbuster Video in September of '99? It really blew my mind. The best thing out at the time graphically was probably Ocarina of Time and Metal Gear Solid 1. So seeing a 128-bit Sonic running around at 60 frames per second was incredible. While the game does show its age, when played today, it'll always give me nostalgic feels. Thank you for writing that in, and I agree. It's interesting, right? 128-bit, I forgot all about that. Remember it was all over the box?
Yeah. Big
Nicholas, how do you say this guy's name?
Schaefer.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember playing it as a demo at Rest in Peace Toys R Us. Someone had left it on Biggs, but I had never played a 3D game before. I had no clue I was supposed to fish. I just ran around Mystic Ruins thinking this was the coolest game ever. It's kind of my first experience with Mario 64 was basically me just climbing trees going, you could climb trees in a game? It's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for writing. If you guys want to support this show and keep it going, you can support this on Patreon at patreon.com/SegaBits. Thank you guys for listening. Catch you guys next time. See you.